call to order the meeting of the Rappaport Town Board and ask our clerk, Christian Sampson, to call the roll.
Councilman Allman here. Councilman Tress. Councilwoman Charles. Councilman Deputy Supervisor Withers. Supervisor St. Lawrence.
Here, I'd like to ask Councilman Ullman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to take one thing out of order on the agenda because we were notified, I guess it was on Monday, by Ted and the Superintendent of Highways that the state has a brand new program of monies that will be available for bridge work and for culverts, two separate grants. It's a great thing. It's a 5-year program, but the first chance to put money in and put funds into this or to put a project in requesting these funds is September 9th. So when we found out this at a meeting on Monday, we asked Nicole Allen from LaBarge, who could do the application, to come down and tell us about it and tell us what we can do in order to get an application in a timely fashion by September 9th. So Nicole, come right up.
Thank you very much. My name is Nicole Allen. I'm the Planning Services Manager with LaBerge Group, and as mentioned, there is a grant that just became available. It is a federally funded project that's administered by the state, and it funds bridge projects and culvert projects. The bridge projects are a maximum of $5 million. The culvert projects are looking at a minimum of $100,000 to $1 million project. So they're not looking for the small culverts, but they are looking for a large range of projects that will be substantially beneficial to the public. These projects have a very short turnaround. They're not overly complicated, but the more project ready and information that you're able to provide will give you substantial points in the review process. It's a 2-point review for the bridges. There's a rating system that's already put into place by the state that evaluates your bridges. And so each bridge needs to be on a public highway or have the public access, and they have a BIN number. The BIN number is associated with a rating that the state has provided. So that'll be the first assessment points, and then second will be through an expert testimony or witness from that's provided as part of the revaluation. The culverts do not have that same process, but they will go through the expert review. So as much information that can be put together related to that. Anything that we talked about, some of the culverts that have had FEMA and flood damage in the past and that have a public need, those are of greater importance, and larger projects that would be rated very highly.
Now, one of the things is that you need to have some structural engineering done in some of these bridges. We identify, I was just talking to the Deputy Supervisor, and we talked at our meeting, we have the 4th Street Bridge in Hilburn, which goes over the railroad tracks, which was one that we know that you've checked out too.
Right.
It's rated 5.4, and we also have the bridge on the Hamlets on Bridge Street, are 2 bridges that we would like to try to get into this project. And we have, our engineers don't have that structural ability, and you would be able to have one of your engineers come down for one day and do maybe 5 or 2 bridges and 3 culverts and be able to do some of that?
Right. Our firm is a civil engineering firm, so we do have professional engineers that would be able to spend the day, look at your system that you have in place. They can look at all the bridges that are eligible. We'll make sure that they're on the list that the state provides and has a BIN number, because that will be specific. With the culverts, I did verify they need to be on a public highway or have some sort of public highway link. And so the engineers would be able to evaluate that and be able to take pictures and structurally look
with
at
our
them.
engineers and with our highway department, we've identified some culverts by Rita and Ralph, one that had blown out during one of the big storms and it caused problems. And we have some other culverts as well. So if we had your structural engineer come down on Monday or Tuesday to look at our bridges, what would the cost be to have them do 2 bridges and the 3 culverts?
Sure. So for the day, for the engineering, it would be $1,000 for the day to evaluate.
For each spot, or just for
For
you
the
could
day.
do all of them?
Right,
Okay.
right. To do all of those
So $200
evaluations,
for each one.
at least to the assessment. So any additional costs related to coming up with the third-party assessment would be in addition to that.
Okay, and then, but they would know what to do in order to get the grant application ripe. and
Right,
get-
we could narrow it down to see which ones are gonna be most project-ready, or which ones would give you the largest opportunities. If they're all evaluated the same and give you the best chance, we can put in as many applications as needed. These particular grants are not overly complicated. They will fund the engineering and the design aspect of it, but they are looking for those that are probably more project-ready, so the more information that you can pull in the short term, the better. Because it's a
And
very
your fees would be in part of the project too?
Correct,
As part of the
right,
grant, okay,
right.
good.
Right, so that can be part of the overall cost estimate.
And those fees come out of the grant, or?
The engineering and the design would come in as part of the grant. The grant writing would have to be separate
Okay.
as part of that.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And how much is the grant writing?
We had talked about some $800 per application. You can put in as many bridge and culvert applications, but each one is a
It's a
separate project.
standalone project.
Right.
So,
But if we do multiple, we can come up with a discount as, we were talked about
great. That's
2,200 for
That's great.
3 or
I'm just
something.
confused. You said to write the grant is approximately $800.
$800
And
per.
are they all similar grants?
They are all similar, they are very similar. There's a bridge application and a culvert application. They just pull in different information. And then we can discount it for the multiples and look at,
Or technically, we could take one grant and then just change the wording and follow the rest.
similar, you need to have a very specific scope of work of what's going to be done for that culvert or that bridge, excuse me.
so you have to amass all the information, all the
Right.
other previous historical information, photos, and the other engineering reports. On Ralph, we have some old reports from Brooker Engineering and things of that nature. And
Right. Any documentation from fire department, FEMA related to each of those
And
impact
what do you
needs.
think are the odds? Is it a competitive type of grant?
It is competitive. It is a very short turnaround, so because of the short turnaround, there's going to be a lot of people that are not necessarily project-ready to have picked up on the application.
That makes our odds better.
That makes your odds much better. There is a rating system that's already in place on the bridges, so we can take a look at which bridges get selected to determine what your chances are on those individual bridges. There's a scale of 1 to 7. The 4th Street Bridge was looked at as a 5.4, so that's 7 being like extremely good, 1 being extremely horrible. So you're in a good category. So part of the rating system and looking with the engineers is trying to understand why that rating system is either inaccurate or why there is additional improvements that need to be done so that when an expert looks at it from DOT, they're able to make that assessment that that priority should be moved up.
Because we get asked all the time, don't we, Pat, from the people in Hilburn, the mayor, to work on that 4th Street Bridge, and Tony has made it clear that it's not a matter of just putting down an overlay of asphalt. There's structural engineering that needs to be done, and maybe the state hadn't looked at that in a while, which is why it'd be important to have your person
So the lower
look
the
it over.
number, the better it is.
The lower the number, the
of
better.
getting the grant.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, this is one of the few times that it's 95%
Yeah.
for bridges and 100% for culverts.
That is
The
correct.
match is very minimal or zero, which is something that is.
How many
Hey.
culverts do we have, Tony, that, or Ted? Ted, how many culverts that we're looking to possibly qualify for the grant?
We were just talking about 3 in that range. The project is a 5-year project, and the first 2 years is what we're going to award the project or grant money for. Maximum is three culverts in
We have more than that.
year 1,
Yeah,
and one
thousands.
bridge in year 1 that they would get. But they're taking, the year 2 is also included in the application, I believe.
Right.
September.
And some culverts that we were thinking about were on county roads, so they didn't, yeah.
So maximum 5 is,
That we're looking at, but we have, how many culverts, his question was how many culverts? How many culverts do we have in the town that would,
we got hundreds of polls.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And they're different conditions, we could talk about fixing the ones that are.
Does this qualify for the board with the dam, Lake Suzanne Dam? Would that qualify on structural issues?
Yeah, we can make a bridge over Suzanne Lane.
Well, there actually, it's a good point, Pat, because there are some culverts leading up right to the dam that we could put in, like by Francis Place and some other
Would
areas.
that affect like the catch basins and leach homes and
Catch basins would be
the
different.
areas that all the catch basins fall in? That's strictly county?
Right, the catch basins would be different. The dam, as long as there's a public highway or public road that the culvert would be serving is the key component on the culvert piece.
Going over that dam, I
Right.
think. We can put a road in.
Yeah, but,
There's two resolutions, Mr. Supervisor. I believe one was to authorize, although it's under the threshold, we do want a resolution in place to authorize the bond to begin this process. And two would be,
Wanna move that?
subject to the town attorney's approval, the list of the items that are going to be listed, because that might be needed specifically. for the
And
grant.
because I don't have the resolution in front of me, what's the dollar amount that's going to be resolution?
So it'd be less than $5,000, right?
correct.
Moved by Councilman Omen, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. That was to appoint, to hire you to do that. And then the next thing would be a resolution to submit the projects in accordance with what the town attorney comes up with. Moved by Councilman Omen, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. I want to thank you, Nicole, if I can call you, or Miss Allen, for coming down so quickly. We called you yesterday and said we had a meeting and we needed to get this done in order to hit the September 9th. Our next meeting is, I think, to the 13th or 14th, so it was very timely. I really appreciate
very
you
welcome.
driving all the way down for this morning meeting and to be able to accomplish this. So you will send us a list of all of our bridges in an Excel sheet from the state, a list of what culverts. We will then start to amass that information and get it to you so you can start compiling the grant.
Yep, and we'll coordinate
Fantastic.
for having an engineer come down next week.
Great,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
If
Yep.
you're, just one more question, if we are awarded the money, from the time the process begins on the site, the engineerings, the civil engineers coming down, submitting the grant, if it's, if the money is awarded to us, what is the time period?
That I'd have to verify, but it is a reimbursement program, so it's not a grant and award and then you do the work. It is a full reimbursement.
Okay.
But,
It can be a rolling thing.
So as soon as you get-
Whatever we put out, we reimburse, and we get 100% on the culverts and 95% back in the bridge.
right, which is extremely unique because they don't typically fund that high of a
Great.
percentage.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Thanks for bringing it to our attention, and thanks for...
Thank you very
Really
much.
for coming down. Thank you. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, Nicole. You're welcome to. Okay. Next, we have our police matters.
Okay, I have,
Captain Coakley?
yes, I have one thing here for approval for two officers, Sergeant Howell and Officer Lane, to attend the New York State Traffic Safety Committee up in Genesee, New York, in Syracuse, New York. They've been asked to speak. We have been identified as the leaders in implementation of pedestrian safety programs. They did this last year. They were very impressed, so they'd like to have these two officers attend again. So we're...
And unfortunately, we just had the death of a
We just
pedestrian
had a pedestrian
today,
again.
or last night, and
Correct.
so...
All right, so that is what we have. We have a resolution number for it already, ID'd as 3143, for these officers to attend.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Omen. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
I have a second item here, which would really be under new business, for a request for payment or increasing our impact program. We need to upgrade it. Its approximately value is $14,000. I reviewed the police budget. The money is in there to pay for this. What it includes is entire revamping of our CAD system, which is our computer aided dispatch system with it, and along with it, because it's been upgraded to a degree, they say we have to retrain our officers, which they will come, and that's part and parcel of the price, and that's probably why it's high, the $14,000. The program itself was inexpensive compared to other programs, but it was
Why
the...
is it new business?
Excuse me?
Why is it new business? It just happened?
Yes, I just got this August 23rd, 2016. We would like to get the training done before the first of the year, and that's why by the time we get approved for this and we move on, if we get approved for it now, or whatever step is taken, we'll have to.
Would you get some backup and get it to the council members as to the cost and...
Well, if you see on your, right there, gave you a flyer?
Sorry.
Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right, that explains exactly how it's going
Let's
to
get a
break down.
second to peruse it, so for Councilman Omen to peruse it. So it's a total of 14,400.
That is correct.
And what is the, okay. So the impact is our program that we put
That is
in.
our
Is
records
our-
management system that we
Yep.
have. It's been in effect for 3.5 years, and it has done very well. In fact, just to give you a side note, it was very great of assistance to us in reference to the parole lawsuit. The data that we were able to retrieve from that system was able to answer all their questions. Well, maybe not the way they wanted
Because
it, but
right, but the great thing with the impact system is that if there's an event, then whatever then happens around that event, it can, all goes into one folder or one
Correct.
retrievable
That is correct.
number. So if there, whether it was a 911 call or whether it was something else, it all then goes to that. So
That is correct.
when the detectives are working on any particular thing, they're looking at a comprehensive
That is correct.
review on the impact. Now, after we put this in, then who else is using impact now?
The Village of Suffern is using it for the county. That's it. Numerous PD, police departments in Westchester are using it. The county is up in there, I think going thing with Spillman program. Impact did put in for it. It was more influenced by the sheriff's department because their needs are slightly different than the normal police department. It had to do with their record keeping for the correction facility.
But these systems don't have to communicate with other systems.
Well,
They're all standalone systems, but
Ours
if
is a standalone system. We will, right now, they operate on the New World system, and we have been polite enough to have our program be able to be read by theirs, and they can retrieve some of our information for their use at any given time.
Okay.
And the same thing will probably happen whatever program they go to.
Should we go through purchasing? Should follow the proper procedure, goes to purchasing attorney's office.
I just want to mention these sole source, which is all right, because we are using impact.
Correct.
So, the only thing that we could have had, we should check, for some of the board's request, is that the pricing is subject to where we had previously spoken to them about future upgrades.
So could we vote on it and?
Subject to the
Subject to-
approval of the purchasing and the town attorney's office? Okay, you want to move that?
Yep.
Moved by Councilman Allman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you have anything else on that, Sid?
No, I see you have something for executive session for the
Okay, so we'll-
ACLU. I don't know if you need me for that, Mr. Klein?
I don't think we need you for that, but I think Mr. Nugent is going to be here in a little while to discuss the Curley matter, which will be an executive session discussion.
Okay, good. All right.
Should we call you when he's here, or?
I'll give him a couple minutes. I'll let Brian. I'll
Okay.
wait.
All right. So next is acceptance of the minutes for the regular meeting of July 13th. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Item 2B is a regular meeting of July 28th, moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Did we just leave all the others, right? The impact, right? As you, okay. All right, next on the agenda is the town attorney, Michael? Mr.
Yes,
Klein.
we have three agreements to discuss. The first of these is to approve an agreement with the county for the Ida Road improvements under the 2016 Community Block Grant.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next agreement is pertaining to the Feist Ambulance Corps. Just a brief history. Years ago, the town had a piece of property which we gave to the ambulance corps for use, but it had a reversionary clause saying that if it ceased use as an ambulance corps, the property would come back to the town. More recently, the town, at Feist's request, purchased property next to it to enable their expansion. We have a lease agreement with them to build a new building, which will overlap both lots. As a condition of financing, the bank that's providing the construction loan has asked
The construction loan to the ambulance.
to the ambulance corps that we subordinate our reversionary clause to the mortgage.
Wasn't this discussed in the last meeting?
Yes.
I thought we voted on it already.
That was a different condition. It was another condition that the bank asked for, which we approved. Now they're asking if we could subordinate our interest to the mortgage as to the reversionary interest. It's hard to envision when this would ever happen. Remember, the ambulance corps submits its budget to the town,
And-
so basically we fund whatever their expenses are.
Yes.
So it's hard to see a situation where the bank wouldn't be paid because their budget includes whatever the cost of the financing is. So,
And worst case scenario is if they go belly up somehow, we could always take it over and just pay the mortgage and it becomes our property.
we could do that if that was suitable.
Worst case, probably possible.
Yeah, the other thing that we discussed, whether or not, if the bank took the property back, whether they could lease it without town's prior approval. Now, this is a separate condition that the bank imposed.
Moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next resolution is an agreement with Penny Rockland for reimbursement for PRD training.
Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Now, the next four items are setting public hearing dates. I just want to confirm with the board, are the dates that we have scheduled for September going to be changed at all? Because we should have that discussion before we set the public hearing dates.
I think that September 12th is a holiday, which would be the workshop. So I think we should have the workshop on the 13th.
September 5th is a holiday. What holiday is it for? Labor Day is the 5th. Why did my calendar show that?
I'm sorry.
Jackie had mentioned that there was a... No? All right, so then,
Okay, make it-
then we can have a regular meeting date. So we would, September 12th is the workshop, and September 14th, Chris, is the regular meeting. So for these hearings, we should make it 8, 8:01, 8:02, 8:04 on the 14th.
Okay.
We'll have our regular meetings in September.
So the first two resolutions setting public hearing dates arise from request by the state, Department of State, to amend, number one, our fire prevention code, and number two, our zoning code to conform to the state building and fire prevention code.
And that adds in one of the key things that they wanted was the energy as well?
Yes, energy efficiency requirements are one of the things that were required. It's really technical changes to make both of our local laws compliant with the state code.
Now, will we be able to, or the public be able to have what our previous code was, and then kind of a red line version as to what the changes would be, so people would be able to?
We can do that. The code is online, of course. We could, we will be publishing and posting online the changes. I can see what we can do.
Okay,
before
well, the
that.
changes
So-
will be posted in the,
Yes, so when we give the public notice, that'll include a copy of the amendments to the law which are proposed. So I
Okay.
think it's pretty self-evident if you look at the proposed amendments, what the changes are.
Okay.
So the first of these is for the changes to the fire prevention chapter of the town code. On the top of the resolution, it says amendment to zoning law. That should be crossed out. That will be on the second resolution. So the top of the resolution should read, set public hearing date, Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code, and this one addresses the fire prevention chapter.
okay. So
So
we'll do the B1 first, setting the hearing date for the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. Moved by?
Charles.
Councilwoman Charles, seconded by?
Withers?
Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously, and that will be at 8:01.
That's fine. The next public hearing is on the zoning law amendments, and that should be 8:02.
Moved by Councilwoman Charles, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The third resolution setting a public hearing involves changes that my office drafted regarding our solid waste management law. This basically improves the requirements in the town reviewing licenses submitted by garbage haulers and permits us to use proceedings in other jurisdictions where haulers were denied licenses for improper conduct. So it strengthens our ability to review the licenses and provides due process protections to the haulers for hearing. And the way our law is set up, it's actually Mr. Zarenko's office, or Mr. Zarenko, who is the arbiter of those licenses.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
And that's for 803.
8:03.
And finally, we have a resolution involving the tax cap and we suggest that this be scheduled also the same date unless the board wishes a different date, and that would be set at 8:04.
Okay, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Is this on, one second, is this on the recommendation from you, John, when you doing the budget, that we have to override the cap? Do you have an estimate?
No. But we will probably closer to that time, but this is just to override it, it's the ability to.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, Michael, C?
The town was approached by a company, Philbin Group, which is before the Village of Montebello to receive zoning approvals to open up a assisted living facility on a lot across from Good Samaritan Hospital. They came to us seeking a pilot agreement through the Rockland IDA, and all the involved entities, the school district, the village, and the IDA are in favor of it. Since the town is the assessing unit, we would be the ones that involved in creating the pilot with the IDA. In order to do that, we need to obtain an appraisal to estimate the value of the property once it's constructed. This hires an appraiser to do that, and we've already received payment from the applicant to pay the cost of the appraisal.
Everybody had any questions on this? I just want to make something clear. This is a process that went to the Village of Montebello, went through their planning boards, their zoning boards, to have this property. It's part of the project between the Tagaste Monastery and the shopping center that's on the corner of Hemian and 59. The front portion would be a CVS, according to what the village has proposed, and then the back section would be this assisted living, which is about 200 units. And they're requesting to have a pilot agreement. And I just bring this up because I just wanted people to know who was approving this project and how we get involved, since we're the assessing agency of it. But the village, the school district are in favor of having a pilot agreement, and the IDA. But I just want to note that under the present administration in the county, they do not give any pilot agreements. So the county would not be participating in this economic development
That's been
project.
their policy to date. Whether that changes, I doubt it, but I think we would expect that they will not participate. So-
Why do we have to participate?
Well, it's a policy question. Do we want to encourage, businesses to move into the area and create jobs and do so with the IDA's approval by giving them some tax benefits over a number of years or not? So that's-
It would be, this would have clawback provisions, as we did, for instance, on the Avon, that would be tied to different aspects of it and jobs and things of that nature. So
Yeah, and
that if they didn't, so for instance, that they would belly up in 5 years or something, they would have to then pay their full taxes that would have been due had they not had a pilot. So they have to meet every one of their standards. There's clawback provisions in there.
And they do meet the IDA criteria for a pilot, so,
And it's not voting on the pilot, it's just voting on allowing them to go get appraised.
correct.
All right? All right. Move-
What school district does this affect? Rampo Central?
Yes,
Yes.
And the Village of Montebello.
And Montebello.
Yeah. Okay, moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
We have a proposal for work to be done at Harmony Hall. The proposal is by Yankee Construction, and it's for $5,117.
This is, they're cleaning up the back portion of it and been doing painting, and it looks good. And it's something, the mayor and the board in Sloatsburg had asked if we had do some improvements there on the cosmetics and on the roof, and this is to do that.
Who is this Yankee Construction?
Yankee Construction is who the state recommends for historic properties. They have done work on this before, and this is who the state had recommended to do this
Did it
work.
go through purchasing?
It will have to go through purchasing, right, Mona? Did it? So the,
Subject to purchasing.
subject to purchasing, all right? Did we move it?
Yes, I did.
Second. Moved by Councilman Charles, second by Deputy Supervisor
Councilman
Withers. All
Charles,
those in
call.
favor?
Councilwoman.
Councilwoman,
That's
Councilwoman
fine.
Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Don't matter.
At least someone's paying attention.
Yeah, somebody's listening.
3E is retain a company to assist in pending litigation. We can either approve it now, we can discuss in executive session if there are specific questions about it.
Okay, we can discuss it in executive session when we do the police matters.
We have 4 tax certiorieries for settlements for discussion. The first of these are 2 parcels. Both are residences owned by Karen Garrawell. The first of these results in a tax refund of $19.88, covering years 2011 through 2016. The second parcel involves 2011 through 2016 as well, and has a refund of about $100. One of these is in New Hempstead, the other is in Sloatsburg, with the same property owner.
Okay. Moved by? Councilwoman Charles, seconded by? Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Park Avenue NY LLC is the property owner for the next tax certiorari settlement. This is an apartment building in Spring Valley. This covers years 2013 through 2017, results in a tax refund of $2,900, and this is based on appraisals that the town obtained as part of the litigation.
Charles?
Moved by Councilwoman Charles, seconded by?
Withers.
Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next resolution involves property at 66 Highview Road. This is a partial exemption for a clergyman's residence, and this covers tax year 2014 and 15.
Moved by?
Charles?
Councilwoman Charles, seconded by? I'll second it. I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Aye.
And last tax certiorari settlement involves property at 900 Route 45. This is a school. The settlement results because there was litigation among parties to that property, and the court negated a purported transfer of the deed, which was the obstacle to the exemption. So based on a Supreme Court ruling as to who owned the property during the relevant period of time, the property owner is entitled to the exemption.
Who was the owners of the property?
Congregation Berchus Yosef.
It's the old Montezuma Center, right?
No, this is all the way up,
The old JCC.
the old JCC, up on Route 45.
It's fine. I'll move
Okay,
it.
moved by
Charles?
Councilwoman Charles, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next is a resolution, and I think Mr. Zarenko might be able to give us the background about this. This involves permission to maintain a sanitary, a building which encroaches upon a sanitary sewer easement at 51 Pomona Road.
Go ahead, Ted, you want to come up and, might as well see what he has to say.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Supervisor and Town Board. Yeah, there was a situation that happened at 51 Pomona Road. This is a property in the village of Wesley Hills, and the homeowner was in the process of putting on an addition onto his property. When he applied to the village, they didn't require that he provide an updated survey of the property.
Why not? Don't they always do that?
They should be doing that. They should, but they did not. What happened is that it didn't show a sewer easement that was installed on, or a sewer line and an easement that was prepared on his property
Ted,
10 years before he owned it.
So who's the village engineer for Wesley Hills?
It would be issued through the building inspector, not necessarily the village engineer. The village engineer would see it as part of the plot plan review.
Who's the building inspector for you? Wesley Hills?
Mike, do you? John Lane.
So the person puts an application in to do an addition to their house in Wesley Hills.
Correct.
They put the application into the building department in the village, so the village then has to approve it, or their planning board, or their zoning board, right? And it goes through all of these steps?
It doesn't go, it goes to the building inspector. It doesn't go to a board at that point. Because
Didn't need any variances or anything?
no.
I'm just trying to see the process of how many people missed this, but go ahead.
Okay, so it came to our department for a sewer permit because he wanted to hook up his addition to the existing sewers. And we looked at it and said, well, something got missed here. We have a sewer line that runs through the property. And in fact, the corner of the addition was built over top of the sewer line. So we sent our sewer department out immediately to make sure there was no obstruction, no break in the line. And we televised it. The line is fine.
Just for people to understand. So the actual structure itself is over the sewer line?
There's a corner of the building, yeah, that's the...
Wouldn't they have to put footings in?
Yeah,
How deep is our pipe?
it's pretty deep there. It's probably deeper than the
When
actual
a-
structure that was put in.
When a homeowner is digging on their property, don't they have to go 800 deep?
Technically built on that property.
They should. Yeah.
So nobody marked this out, and the village just lets them go and dig, they don't do markouts, they don't know what utility lines are under there, and they're the top of our sewer line?
Yeah.
And they actually built a foundation over our sewer line?
Correct. All right, but the good news is that it's not broken. It's
Well,
the
that's-
sewer line.
But what if it does break? It's under their house.
We're going to have to take
repair
other
it.
steps to get that repaired. In any event,
Just a couple other questions, and anybody else can jump in if they have a question. So, do you know how many linear feet of over the pipe they're over, actually? You say it's over, the corner of the house is over our sewer line. Do you know how many linear feet, or approximately?
if I had to guess, approximately 15 feet of the line.
Yeah. How big, what's the diameter, do you know what the diameter of the pipe is there, Ted?
It's an 8-inch line.
An 8-inch line.
Yeah, when the town installed sewers in the mid-'80s, the initial plan was to have a pump station uphill from this property. There's a cul-de-sac that comes off of Pomona Road to the south side of Pomona Road. And in order to eliminate that pump station, we got an easement to run the line by gravity out to Pomona Road.
So it's a gravity line, and it's an 8-inch line.
Yeah.
And ideally, maybe it should be moved, and the homeowner should pay for that. Or is that what you're going to get to? Go ahead, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, anyway, the homeowner is in desperate straits to get into his house. There's health problems with his wife, and they need to move into the house immediately. She's scheduled for some type of surgery, and they can't be worrying about, where she's going to go when she gets out of the hospital.
So they can't get their CO because they can't get a sewer permit.
The village of Wesley Hills told us that they would not release the CO until we release the sewer permit. After meeting with the homeowner, I wrote up an agreement and I released the sewer permit so they could get the ball rolling, so he wouldn't be caught between a rock and a hard place.
So your recommendation is that we allow them to have a sewer permit, but we still have to come up with some way to ameliorate this situation, right? Was that what? So this was why the lady, when she
Yes.
comes out of the hospital, she's going in for some surgery, she would have a place to live.
Correct.
That action already, have you already given the permit?
I released the sewer permit last week, yes.
Okay. So,
Is there any, can we pull this item, do we have to vote on
We
it,
don't.
council, or?
yeah, I think we need more information, don't we?
Yeah, so
Yes.
basically what Mr. Zarenko did, and I commend him for being as compassionate as he was to try to help these people out in a situation that they didn't, it wasn't self-created. I mean, it was really.
They put an addition on
Competency
it?
on the-
It is self-created,
Well,
because they
but-
should have alone did a survey.
Well, maybe, okay. But they did what they were authorized to do by the village. So he issued the permit and put conditions on it. So what we really have to do is ratify those conditions or modify them. So we do not have to take action today because it was a conditionally issued permit, right, Ted? So.
Correct.
We can have further discussions about this and see, I mean, the concern is if we have to access the sewer pipe in the future, who's incurring that cost? Ideally, it'd be good if the pipe were reworked and engineered around the current location, so it didn't interfere with, the building didn't interfere with it, but there's a cost to that. Should the taxpayers be responsible for that? Should the homeowner be responsible for that? Those are the issues
Or a
that the board's
combination
gonna have to
thereof, yeah.
address.
What would be the cost if we wanted to
We don't have an estimate yet. We know that when the sewer line was installed, there was rock in the area. I don't know at this point. You know, we're still working on that.
Does this prevent us by not taking action today from allowing the homeowner, I spoke to the homeowner, his wife has cancer, she's having surgery, and they need to come back, set up some handicap issues for her. Is there any way we could, is this preventing them from moving in by not taking action?
Nothing that we do or don't do today would prevent them from moving in. I've issued the
Ted
sewer
already
permit.
issued the permit, which was the prerequisite to get the C of O, but there are conditions on the permit, and those are the things that we have to address.
So
So
if
he
we
took
should-
care, he took care of the humane situation right
Yeah.
away, so that's not a real
And
issue. It's really a
I
cost
think we
issue.
should have Ted work up information as to what possible things we could do, or we could do nothing and just hope the pipe doesn't break.
Why can't we just leave it?
And then ask the person to come to the workshop, and get your information, so on our next meeting on September
I have
12th.
I have no problem leaving it as long as it's somewhere in the deeds that when the next person buys the house, he's not stuck with all of a sudden the town coming in, digging in to fix a pipe, so that he's aware of it.
Mr. Supervisor, if you would, I'd gladly report back to the board for
Okay.
the next meeting.
All right,
Okay?
so at the workshop on the 12th, and
Yeah.
we'll get more information, and,
I have a question.
yeah.
Before you issued the permit, did you consult Mr. Malley or Mr. Sharon?
No, Mr. Malley is not the building inspector in Wesley Hills.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I know he's the building
Yeah.
inspector, that wasn't my question.
No, I did not.
Did you consult him about the situation?
No, I spoke with the town attorney.
Okay, did
I
you
spoke with
speak to
Mr.
Mr.
Klein and
Sharon?
Mr. Berman.
Did you speak to Mr. Sharon?
No, again, he's the highway superintendent. This has
I'm
nothing to
looking
do with
at it
highways.
from the town's liability.
Yeah.
I appreciate your
Yeah.
compassion, but that's
No.
what I'm looking at, the liability as far as the town is concerned.
Yeah, we spoke with the town attorney's office about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we will put this on for September 12th. Michael?
The next resolution is the settlement of litigation. We can either approve it, but if the board has questions, we can do that in executive session first.
Okay, this is, we'll put an executive session, so we have one police item and two other items there, okay?
Next is a discussion item. The town, when we purchased the Burgess Meredith property, that included a swimming pool, which had been unused for many years. What was unique about the swimming pool is there were tiles in the pool that were crafted by Henry Varnum Poor. We had
Ready designer.
Janet Burnett and I forgot who else basically removed the tiles, and they have been in storage in the town since then because they're valuable pieces of art that were created by Mr. Poor. Recently, Dr. Stead has been mounting them so they will be suitable for display. We've received a request to permit them to be displayed by the Rockland Center for the Arts. The questions I think the board has to decide is, number one, since we've had these in storage in their town property, do we want to be the entity that basically brings them out to the public in a display, or do we want to permit another person or another entity to use them before the town does that? Number two, we don't have these appraised, and if we're going to lend them out, I think there has to be some kind of insurance requirement. So we have to make these decisions as to whether or not to approve the request.
Well, just for the board's knowledge of the Crow Advisory Committee and the work that's being done, the River House, which is that first little house that you come in where we have electricity to, when we're getting electricity to the main house, they've done some work to improve the floor. They had to shore up some work on the floor, and they're painting the walls in that house, and eventually, I think they're planning for October to show some artifacts, which may include these. So I don't think it matters when do they want to show these? I don't think it matters if we show them first or if the Rockland Center for the Arts shows them. I think it's good that they be shown. But if they are lent out, then they do need to give us some insurance in case they drop them or break them. I mean, they're tiles, and they will be mounted in frames.
And the quantity will count this for?
The request is to put them on loan from October 9th through November 30th, so that may actually
Okay,
conflict.
that works. let's see what the date is, what the committees come up, otherwise, I think it's good to be able to have the Rockland Center for the Arts be part of it.
It's, I think, East Ramapo Division or something that wants to come for display to them. East Ramapo School District.
Now, do we want to pursue some type of appraisal of the items and then see what kind of
Rather
insurance
than
requirements we
taking, I
have, or
think,
what
to
do
the
we do?
cost, why don't we just have them show us an addition, making us an additional insured for the time period that they have them? And you come up with a suitable cost, Michael, as a
And I just want to read one little paragraph. Our exhibits are used as a teaching vehicle to over 600 students in the East Ramapo as part of our free and education-based school tour program. So I don't want to make it too difficult for them to get
Yeah.
access to it.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good.
we'll approve it subject to insurance.
Yep, moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carried unanimously.
The next item is also a discussion item. We brought up at a prior meeting a request to use the park and ride lot in off Route 45. Company that is doing construction basically asked if they can use it as a staging facility. We asked for additional information about how much they want it to use and for what duration, and they provided us with what's attached, and also offered to pay us $150 a month if they can be using the site. So the question is, do we want to do this or not?
Well, it's $150. It doesn't sound like a lot to utilize a
So it costs
portion
us
of
more in paperwork.
the commuter lot. But this is a project that's being done by the state to put in drainage and sidewalks along Route 45 in Chestnut Ridge and South Spring Valley. So it is a good public works project, and,
And they're talking about 5 parking spaces.
yeah. So basically, you know, they're paying $25 a month for each parking space where they'll be utilizing it. And obviously, they'll be insured, they'll insure us.
They'll have to provide insurance.
I know that was a
to the
question
town.
we've had last time. We need to make sure that's in there.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Everybody go with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
I have 2 other items which were new. One is a litigation matter, which we can discuss in executive session. The other is a resolution which I think was emailed to the board members but didn't make the agendas, the first draft of the agenda. This, the board was to consider whether or not we want to refer the Town Square Development Project to the planning board for its review and report, or what the board's pleasure was with regard to that. We've been getting requests from various people associated with that project, asking if we would be willing to do that and move it forward to that limited degree.
Is this the project that, the 600 units?
This was the
Yes.
project that they
Publicly, I'm gonna say, they're wasting my time if they don't come back with a better traffic plan
I
or reduce
agree.
the,
I said the exact same
or
thing.
reduce the amount of units.
So we don't want to refer it to
My
the
issue
planning
is,
board until it's
why mislead-
riper, right?
Why mislead an applicant to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at planning board and we're going to reject it anyway, so that's.
Well, the,
No, and I disagree with that. I think that what we should do is refer it to the planning board, because they can now continue to tweak the project, and at that point, we can come back and look at the information and the details as to what it is, or how it is that they want to either reduce it or change it and address the traffic and anything else that the public has in question. And this applicant has gone above and beyond to go into the public and to review it with them, have a public session with them. It's been on LoHUD, it's been in the newspaper, it's been on Channel 12, so I think we should give them an opportunity to discuss,
I did-
not to approve.
I did include in the draft resolution the following language, that the planning board is requested to consider and comment on whether the proposed zoning law amendment and the project to be constructed consistent with the zoning law amendment contemplates development of a size and scope desirable for downtown Route 59 Muncie area, and whether the petitioner's traffic proposals appear potentially reasonable to manage and hopefully improve the already problematic traffic flows in the area, along with any other zoning and planning considerations the planning board deems appropriate. So, you know, I included in the draft resolution those concerns that were addressed by the board at the public meeting, but it's up to the board whether you want to refer it or leave it as it is.
I mean, if there's a process, I'll follow the process, you know?
It's strictly up to the town board to decide. It's not like it's, You need 3 votes, I'm against it.
Well, I'm against it. I'm against, the project's too big. He's got to, if he wants to come back, it's too big, it's way too big and the
Way
traffic
too
is
tall,
not.
way too high, it's too much.
I think what the Deputy Supervisor and Mr. Ullman are saying is that they would prefer that they see a different project before even sending it to the planning board. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with Councilman Logan that, the planning board's a place to tweak it, but when we're at such a big difference, there's nothing to, I think we're too far apart. If they come down literally half the size and half the amount of units, then can go to planning board to tweak. But I think my opinion is that the difference is too large for them to tweak.
To me, I think it's a shell game. 600 units to come down 300. I mean, it's enough. You cannot drive on 59. You literally can't. The state's supposed to come in with the VRT system, do improvements in there. It's never, when? 10, 20 years? I know we're supposed to kick off in 2018, but quite frankly, I don't see that even getting done.
You have to consider the fact that if you do nothing, then the egregious traffic problem that we have there already will remain. This developer is coming in to try to resolve that problem and try to get that traffic flowing, and we're supposed to have a transportation hub.
But he's
just
bringing-
just for discussion, I don't see the problem in going to planning for discussion, and let them kick it back to us.
I have no problem bringing the discussion on a new project. Retweak his new project before we send it to planning.
Okay.
So would it be correct that I will advise the applicant that there were not enough votes to refer to the planning board, and the consensus of the board was to come back with a scaled-down and modified project for further consideration by this board before it decides whether to refer to the planning board?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, and we have the extension of the agreement on the shade tree plantings. This,
Town budget?
I'm sorry, number 4 on the agenda, finance, the amendment to the town budget.
Yes, this is a shifting of $10,000, part from salary line, part from printing to pay for office supplies needed by my office to prepare documents necessary for a litigation project.
Okay, moved by Almond, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor? Yeah,
No. Hold on. Can we just go in executive session, please?
sure.
Thank you. I'd like to move it,
We'll put in executive session. Okay. And next is the purchasing. Mona?
Extension of the agreement for the shade tree plantings, when we get that after inspection. All right, we do have two, items that just came up yesterday and Friday. Back to the board.
Well, let's do the shade tree first, extension of our shade tree. This is recommended by Ted.
Yep.
Okay, moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next item is reference to our Route 306 project. As you know, we're moving along with that. There's a committee, and there are very specific guidelines that we have to follow. On here, you have a neighbor who we had hired to do the consulting for us. We need to do a study, which they went out for an RFP for, in terms of a historic piece of property potentially. And this proposal shows the needs that they have. There were 3 companies who responded: Tracker Archaeology Services, Binghamton University, and Lewis Berger.
Let me just give a little background, just so people understand. This project is to put a sidewalk on Route 306 from Rita and Ralph and Kaiser all the way up to Viola Road on the entire side. It's monies that we received as a grant from the state through the federal government. It's federal dollars that are locally administered by the state, and we've been working on this for well over, maybe almost 2 years now. We had previously hired Mazer Consulting, and it was approved through the state and through the process. as we were doing the designated street line, you have, there are some properties that are affected along 306. One of the properties is the Denman property, which is closer up to Viola Road, and Mazer has said, although it's a small piece that we're taking there for the right turn lane, they would, under the guidelines of the DOT and the federal guidelines, we have to make sure there are no archaeologically significant items in that little piece. I think it goes in about 4 feet from the highway there. So Mazer, who is our consultant, went out for the bid. Okay, so, and those are the 3 bids.
Three bids came back,
I have a
and
question.
we're recommending,
Just to be clear on the 3 bids, the first bid, the lowest bid, did not include all of the parameters of bid. The company didn't have an archaeologist on staff to be able to do the work, and that's why their bid was around 27, I think, 4,500. The Binghamton University has a group that does this. Theirs was approximately 9,000, and then the third bid was much. So if we take the Binghamton University, I wanted people to understand they may not be the lowest bid, but they're the lowest qualified bidder. Go ahead.
I have a question, Mona, I have a question. I don't know if you could address this or Michael Klein could. Originally, the developer was supposed to pay for sidewalks pretty much half of this property, half of this distance, all the way down to, from probably, not Rita, but from Ralph area, going all the way down till almost,
No,
not
this property is only that little section by Orsamec. It's where.
This is not for the whole
No,
distance?
no, it's just that one property owner's house. And the rest, you're right, everything else has been donated or is in the process of being donated or given over to the town in the planning process. So that is all still
Okay,
in
so it's only
place.
that
They're
area.
just talking that one small section that needs to be done. It's the house that is right by the Orsamec driveway.
The old house in the front?
Yeah.
And we don't have,
Aaron Martin.
there is, in order for us to comply with the federal guidelines, Mike is here, tell us that this is absolutely a necessary process that has to take place.
Yeah, this is along the critical path.
Mona, I wasn't questioning the process, I was just questioning, I didn't realize it was
He
that
did
bad.
want me to know exactly where the property was, so it's just that one private house there.
So,
All right.
the total amount of the, I guess would be a change order, what we've done is $25,601.
Okay.
That will be part of what, the ongoing process of the money that we're getting, ultimately back.
And who's the lead person, another question, not that directly related to this, who's the lead person on this sidewalk project and making sure that it gets done, and who's working
So
with them? Is
there's
that-
a committee that by the federal law, we had to form, and it's Ted and Mike, myself, the supervisor, Tony Sharon, and somebody from the attorney's office, and Dennis Lynch is
Yes.
on board.
When did we form this committee?
You formed it about,
Was it through a board resolution?
yeah,
Okay.
The sidewalk there, this plan was mostly, so we should, the sidewalk is be widened this way.
Give us a property there, so we can do the,
So we pay the legal fees.
yeah, okay.
And then when they do the sidewalk, make sure they're ready, coordinate that they're gonna be widening the street there.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we also are going to, working with the state, that intersection there, Viola Road, is in desperate need of a right turn lane on Viola onto 306, and it's in desperate need of a right turn lane coming south from Brick Church to that intersection onto Viola, on those 2 properties as well. So the state has asked that as we are going through this process, that we look to what we need to do there. The cycling of that light, Ted, I think is at the end of its period, right? What did the state say about this?
The state wants lights to be replaced at different criteria. One is the age of the signal. They looked at about 30 years. This is getting pretty close to that. Also, they want a span wire analysis to make sure that whatever signals are put on there will be able to be supported by the light pole.
And we have that in our traffic study that we're ongoing, so we'll do both of those potential turning lanes there, and so that the proper span would be part of this project, so, all right.
Mazer recommended it, we held off on June for that next
Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
And the last one that I just brought to the town board, our highway superintendent Sharon brought to our attention that our cat loader has a need for a control valve replacement. Now, under normal circumstances, we would think that was not a big deal. However, the cost estimate, and it is sole source because it has to be done at CAT, is $25,000 to $30,000 on the high end. So, Mr. Sharon is here and will discuss the need to have it happen, and since there isn't a town board meeting between now and when we anticipate it happening, we would like to get the approval to expend those funds.
So Tony, do you have Cat working on checking it out now?
They came down and gave us an estimate. Our loader has passed its life expectancy, so it's the main valve. We could probably do it in the house, but our shop doesn't want to touch it. Plug into other things. That's why it wouldn't be for them.
Do you truck it up to their shop in, where are they, Poughkeepsie or Pine Bush?
It's not far,
Okay.
by the county. But we have to take it from a bucket off, and once we do that, we lose all the pins. So that's the high end, that includes all the pins, cases, that hoses, and lines that have to be.
So why don't we approve it up to $30,000? All right, so we'll make it up to $30,000 and to do the work, get it going. Okay. All right, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Great, Tony, thanks. Next is the general matters. Michael, you're going to do that, or?
I can. The first
Okay.
of these is authorization for the fire inspector to attend an ICC annual conference in Kansas City. This is in October.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
Mr. Malia, what fire inspectors will be attending?
Once they use the out of accounts and, setting everything in. And it's at no cost to the town.
Okay.
We have authorization for the acting assessor to attend the IAAO course in White River Junction, Vermont. This is for 2 days in September.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Item C, we've done. Our next meeting date is September 12th is the workshop, and September 14th is the meeting. That's our regular days. Okay? All right, so we have no other items except for executive session. A motion to go into executive session? Moved by Councilman Ullman, and seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. So we're going into executive session for those items. We'll start with you, with the police, and when we come out of executive session, we'll take any actions that need to be taken.
Yeah. We can omit it.
Tony.
Okay. We have two items that were in executive session. One is the settlement of the action with the NYCLU versus the town. This settles that action. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. And we had an amendment on the town budget for the town attorney's office to transfer some funds to
$10,000 from salaries to printing.
printing. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Those are the only items that we have left. The public, now public participation is open. Come right up. State your name. You have 3 minutes.
It's Robert Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. The first item I'd like to ask is, Councilman Ullman, you said that you were conducting an investigation into the former police chief using town time and employees to do work for his private business. Would you be able to give us an update on where that is? Have you found anything? What the current status is of that? The second thing is at the last town board meeting, it was pulled from the agenda. There was an item for the town to purchase a trailer from the Ramapo Local Development Corporation and use it at the police firing range. The question I have is, does the Ramapo Local Development Corporation own this trailer? Because I put in a FOIL request to the RLDC about information as to when they purchased this trailer and how much and everything. And what I received was certification pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 89.3, subsection A. It says, I, Kerry Potter, Acting Executive Director for the Ramapo Local Development Corporation, do hereby certify that after a thorough search, to the best of my knowledge, the following records requested through FOIL do not exist. So the RLDC seems to have no record of purchasing this trailer or anything, so I just wanted to ask the board that if you do purchase this trailer, you should make sure that the RLDC does own it and that there's some kind of appraisal on it. The next thing I'd like to ask is Mr. Lynch is here. I'd like to ask you why, at this point, why does the town need to raise the tax cap? Now, Governor Cuomo passed his 2% tax cap to help make living in New York State affordable, and every year the town of Ramapo continues to go above this 2% tax cap. So what is the reason now that we have to go above the tax cap?
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski.
I have some more things too yet.
Go right ahead.
And also, you all keep passing resolutions about getting audits done for an SEC investigation. How much is this costing the taxpayers? Every meeting there's some other audit needed for the SEC investigation, and this is really starting to add up with the taxpayers. The other thing, couple of things that you discussed on today's agenda with the Wesley Hills sewer problem at 51 Pomona Road. Why is the town of Ramapo responsible for this? The responsibility of this lies with the village of Wesley Hills. They're the ones that repeatedly miss that the sewer line is on the property. So they should be the ones held responsible if the line needs to be replaced or something. Because of their not doing their proper job, it was missed. Wesley Hills should be responsible, not the town of Ramapo. And the last question with the park and ride
Time's up.
lot, you have...
Time's up.
You have one more quick thing about the park and ride lot. You're
Okay.
storing equipment there. I know you're having insurance, but there's any other kind of insurance that you have in case one of these pieces of equipment leaks some kinds of oil or fluids onto the property and goes into the ground? Is there insurance so that the town will not be held responsible for that? Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to just address a couple of things. First, the reason that the town is involved with the sewers is because it's our sewer lines, and so we maintain that. As far as the FOIL, we did purchase that. The Local Development Corp purchased that for $32,000, and there is we requested from the person that was purchased from, Nadler, to get a copy of that. They have sent that. I'll get you a copy of that. All right? And the trailer is not going to be purchased by the town. It was purchased by a private entity. But I'll get you a copy of what the amount that the Local Development Corp. We just got that record in after your request. All right? And okay, and I'll defer now to Councilman Ullman.
And regarding the investigation, being that he's not a current employee, it makes it very difficult for us to investigate. We did give over to the DA and request that the DA step in, and they, it's in their hands if they want to investigate or not. They definitely don't share with us if there is any investigation.
Thank you, Robert. Mr. Dent.
Rudy Dent, 8 Red Oak Lane and 272 McNamara. First of all, Chris, I don't appreciate having to sit here and wait until after executive session in order to have access to public speaking. I think everywhere else they allow the public speaker speaking prior to whatever events you have scheduled.
Usually, just for a second, usually we do that, but we didn't want, the police had something else they had to do, so we had to take care of their business. But usually we try to get the public participation before the executive session, but today we had to satisfy.
That's a perfect
All right.
example of why the police need to be here, because some of the issues raised are to their interests, specifically to their interests.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Chris, if you remember, everything I've told you so far comes true down the long run. I was the one that told you a year prior to the indictments coming down that they would be coming down, and there were names involved. Now, I've noticed that those names are not fully disclosed in the indictments that I was made aware of, which means that probably people are cooperating with the Department of Justice on some of the issues they may or may not have been confronted with. Also, I hope that the former secretary of a former chief of police is not harmed for unwittingly complying with his directions to get involved in theft of services. Also, I've been approached by a member of the ultra-Orthodox community who has expressed concerns about the Ramapo Ambulance Corps, the head of which is supposed to be a very close friend of yours, whom does not provide a charter that the rest of the members can see. What they're told is that the current charter is being modified, and therefore it will be available as soon as they can bring it to their attention. Also, they're not allowed to come on and volunteer their services, which has resulted in the ambulance corps not being able to provide sufficient services when it's called upon. That is, only one ambulance is able to respond, and then they have to ask for outside help. So that is a problem, and we're paying like about $700,000 plus for that entity that shows absolutely no transparency. So that's a problem as well. There are many other issues, but I hope that you go back and let us speak prior to the event and also address the police who need to be addressed.
Okay.
I got 1 second more.
Sure.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Dent. Motion to close the public participation? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm right up. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Deborah Seidman of 5 Rose Hill Road. Real quick, because I want to make sure that you get back to me. I did submit a letter in the May, I think it was 11th meeting. I addressed you guys personally, and I did follow up by sending the letter to the board and to Mr. Klein, and I've not gotten an answer. I would like to actually get an answer on that, and I was thinking that maybe a workshop session or something that we could do to actually sit down and have further discussion on it would be very much welcome. The main reason that I'm here today, though, is because at the end of July, something had come to my attention with respect to the implementation of the January 2012 temporary modular law in the town of Ramapo. I did some research, and I spoke, for instance, with Bruce Levine, who was here at the public hearing. He explained to me that Mr. Ullman had sponsored this new legislation, and he told me that he actually spoke out in favor of it, and that the reasons stated for the implementation of this law was to help facilitate schools that are expanding and need that support to be able to deal with their student body before they can expand the school permanently, as well as to provide a means for schools that have been have gone through the process to actually be able to start on a limited basis while they're fundraising for the schools. Unfortunately, there have been 20 permits that have been issued since that time for these not only temporary modular units, but also the conversion of homes into temporary schools using this law as a basis. It is my understanding, having spoken to Mr. Malia, that not one of the permits was issued to a school that already had a special use permit. This is a problem. I believe it's illegal. I would like the board to discuss this and that we should have some follow-up on this, because the whole purpose of having special permits under zoning is to provide a review, it's to provide neighbors with notice, it's to allow there to be a process that schools need to be welcomed into residential communities. That's the point. I think everybody needs to be supportive of the needs for schools, including private schools. I know I am. The concern is that you need to have our zoning laws reflected. We spent time in the comprehensive plan in 2004. There were recommendations for the implementation of tiered zoning to accommodate schools of different sizes and to greatly relax the bulk table variances and to provide certain reasons why buffers can and should be waived. But what's happening now is you have residents in communities, one day a lot next to them is sold, and without any notice, without any ability to have a public hearing, you cannot even speak at a CDRC, that the use of the property next door has been changed, and there's been no opportunity for them to have any input. That's the whole purpose. The town law says that you cannot change the use of a property without a special permit, and I would like to ask the board to go back to the original intent of this law, to clarify this for the building inspector, and to ask for a moratorium on any new issuances under this temporary modular law for those properties that don't have a special permit. So if they do already have a school,
Okay,
that it can continue, but that at this time, this is breaking our community apart, and it's the cause of a lot of consternation, not just of, the villages, but now especially, with the Frum community in the Muncie area.
Thank you.
So if you could actually respond and tell me
Your time
what's
is
the...
up now.
If you
Thank
could actually respond and just tell me what's the appropriate way that we can either meet with you personally or have a workshop on this or move forward, because I personally, I don't believe that this is something that we should be going through litigation on. I think this is something that we should all
Thank
be
you.
working on together.
Thank you. Motion to close public participation?
Charles.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. And we are going to adjourn in memory of Fran Hunter. She was not just a councilwoman, she was a mother, she was an educator, she was a dedicated commissioner in the police department, and provided incredible service to every community that she touched in her life. It was a glorious life. She was a very positive person. She was a person that could always follow through and get things done. She was tenacious, she was loving, she was compassionate, but more than anything, she was a public servant that really reached out to every aspect, whether they were senior citizens or kids. And speaking with the board, we thought that one of her great loves were our senior citizens, and we were thinking of naming the senior center on 202 in her honor, and we'll do that more appropriately at the next meeting, but wanted to remind everybody that the services for Fran Hunter will be tomorrow at the Scar Funeral Home. They're from 4 to 8. And the Mass will be at Sacred Heart Church in Suffern at 10 o'clock. And so on behalf of the entire town board, we will adjourn the meeting in Fran's beloved memory. Thank you.